Hi, and welcome to the Fancy Comma YouTube. Today I'm joined by Apara Timilean. He writes copy and engaging content for business to business, B2B, and business to consumer or B2C audiences. He's also a contributing writer to the Fancy Comma blog. He's a writer by trade, but in his spare time he loves reading, photography, and anime and movies.
Hi everyone.
Thanks for being on our YouTube. How did you get into copywriting?
Nice to meet you, Shiva. I mean, this will be our first time speaking. Speaking in the videos. About copywriting, I got into copywriting at a little bit after I finished my undergrad studies. So, in my country, it was like after your undergrad, you have to look for something, to be doing to keep you occupied, to keep you interested on the go. So, I found copywriting through a friend. Just normally I was just into like article writing, just writing basically. But over time I started going understanding the different types of writing. Then I found copywriting and it felt interesting to me because I had a friend that used to write ads for WhatsApp ad, a little bit of Facebook ads and thereabout. So I felt maybe copywriting might be a field I would like to explore. So I bought some courses online, and I just started for me, I guess. Yeah, that's how it started for me.
What did you study in undergraduate? Were you a writing major or did you study something else?
No, I studied political science, so that's one of the reasons I'm actually here, though, because I'm actually here to visit. But I'm thinking maybe I could actually continue for my grad studies to extend to maybe practicing politics because copywriting was great. Yeah, it is not worse. It is great actually. But I want to like, who knows, expand my field of knowledge. So yeah, I I studied political science. So it was great.
That's pretty cool. Because a lot of people, like I studied neuroscience in college, so I didn't study writing. I've never taken a.
Yeah.
Uh, I actually didn't even take English writing courses. I took only Spanish writing courses because I minored in Spanish literature in college. So
Oh wow.
it's cool to. Copywriting is a great skill because you can just learn it, use your
Hmm.
existing life experiences,
Yeah.
and that way you can. Um, and you're a really great copywriter, and you've written several blogs for us about especially science copywriting.
Hmm.
Um, so, where are you based, and what are the challenges of being a copywriter where you're from, or just the general challenges that you face as a copywriter?
I was in Nigeria. I mean, when I started copywriting, I was in Nigeria. I That was when I started to, develop interest in copywriting. I think my first blog post I wrote for you was in Nigeria. And yeah, the others, yeah. Because I needed a something to like, focus on. That was why I entered copywriting as I said earlier. But along the lines, it was nice. I developed interest. I bought a course. I studied it, and I started practicing with some of my friends. Like, oh, okay. I introduced. There was a guy I met. He was full on into Facebook ads. So I talked to him like, okay, can I just like write samples for you and see how it goes? And I was like, yeah, I can. And I wrote it, and he was impressed with it, and that gave me like motivation. Okay, you can just do more. So, but to be honest, I mean, like most other things, it wasn't actually easy because I remember the first article I wrote for someone. I mean, in my country, we have this little thing where we just everybody's not as polite or as nice as you would expect. So the first time I wrote an article, I wrote it for a guy. It was an outsourcer. It was like his review of the article was like it almost killed him. That was what he said. He was like the way it was too like the errors were too much. The way I structured it was not just good enough. I mean, instead of like encouraging me, it just shut it down. And I was like, maybe this one really isn't my field. But a friend, he also writes for you actually, Philip. He told me now that I shouldn't just stop that way. I should just keep on developing it. And it led to me getting into copywriting and getting to where I am today. So I feel the challenges I may have faced was one, it really wasn't encouraging as I thought it would be. I mean, people were just pull you down when you feel like they probably could have just helped you up a little bit. But and another thing was actually a very, 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 very low source of knowledge from people around you. In Nigeria, copywriting is not a skill that you can just like ask a professor or ask a lecturer or ask anybody. To really get good information and updated information about copywriting, you have to go outside your field. You have to go outside your country even. Like you have to talk to people. There are people that I talk to on Twitter that I asked them, what advice do you have for me and stuff? And they actually gave me a few advice. Like, oh, you can try this, you can try this. Thus, from there, I learned about the concept of IDA. And from there, someone recommended me, you know what, just go and read on it. I'm going to watch videos on YouTube and you have an understanding of what it means. And that was when I actually fell in love with the idea of IDA itself. It was just like, wow. So I mean, there is something like there's a framework you can work with copywriting, and that was how I decided that I don't have to depend on people in my country. I don't have to see how things were not like really familiarized in terms of copywriting in my country, and I should just expand to other countries or other people outside the country. So, and I think the last issue or problem I faced was was in the area of having a stable internet. Yeah, that was a very big issue. If we are in Nigeria presently, this video might not run as smoothly as it is because the network there and the signal there was not really all that great. I mean, it's kind of fluctuates. So sometimes you don't even have good network. You are just not motivated to write. Sometimes when you even have something to write, you might not be able to write it very well because you have to be connected to the internet sometimes to make some just quick research, and it just doesn't work sometimes. Yeah, so it's just those are just few issues that just the main issues I guess that just like pulled that I probably faced when I was started writing. But overall, it was great actually. The fact that I was able to expand, I was able to see people, know people. I mean, it's copywriting expanded my field in general. It expanded my view. It expanded my interactions with people. I have to say it's even contributed to me being here. I mean, in the United States today. So yeah, it's great. It's a great field.
That's great. Yeah, you were talking about ADA, and I just wanted to clarify for our listeners that are viewers that it's an acronym that stands for Attention, Interest, Desire, and Action. Either you or Phil has written about it for the Fancy Comma blog. I forget.
Yeah,
I
I
want to
wrote
say that Phil
about it.
has, or you did. I
Yeah,
don't remember anymore because it's been a
it's
while.
been a while. Yeah,
Um, and actually, I didn't know you guys were friends until, I mean, I feel like I had an idea that you guys were friends, but I asked Phil if he wanted to be on this YouTube as well. And we haven't scheduled a time yet, but he might, hopefully, I can get him to be on here also.
all right.
But yeah, copywriting is great because it's kind of, for me as a scientist, I felt like being able to communicate very effectively it helps you network better if you can,
Mm-hmm.
because you know how to say things better, and and it's very in demand skill, and I think it's very easy to learn. If
Yeah,
you really want to learn it, you can definitely be very successful in copywriting. But you're right, there's a lot of I've had a lot of horror stories of people that they hired me and then they were not nice. Like sometimes it's just like if I talk to someone and they're not a nice client, I will just immediately be like, no, I'm sorry. Like if they're mean, then I probably won't work with them. You've blogged about science copywriting for us before. Have you done any science copywriting lately, or what are your thoughts on science
that's
copywriting
no
in the
problem.
era of that we're in right now with ChatGPT and just everything? Like, what have you been doing in the copywriting world? Any science copywriting?
Yeah, I haven't written any piece on science copywriting lately, actually, because I've been busy with some other projects I'm trying to like sort out. But in general, yeah, science copywriting is great. I mean, I think initially like felt like I could write about science copies, but when I started copywriting, and I saw your page, and well, science copywriting. No, I mean, that's a field I never knew existed actually. So I sat and I actually read about it. I made some inquiries, did my research, and I realized that it's actually an interesting field. While I was before my undergrad studies, I will add a little bit of like experience in the science department. So I was not really a total stranger into the science world, because political science is just not like exact science, not like the pure sciences. It's just a social science actually. So I still had like a little bit of an understanding of what's like science, the pure science, social science, everything relates into. So it made like the fusion between copywriting and science for me. It made it a little bit easier, and it made it, I just realized that science copy, I initially I thought it was going to be boring. I mean, I was like, "Oh, how are we going to like fuse both science and telling people to convincing people to buy stuff, attracting their attention and stuff?" I mean, how? And then later I realized that it's actually very fun. It is educative, it is fun, and if it is written right, trust me, it just settles well with you. Because when you're writing science copies, most people expect you to be all jabba jabbas about this is science, use big words, use jargons that they don't even understand. But learning that science copy is way beyond that. Science copy goes about telling you like the biggest aspects of science in the littlest ways for you to understand. You like taking the big parts, the big chunks, and like cutting them into small, small pieces, and you understanding and you wanting to even know more about it is one of the part of science copy I am very, very interested in. Like it makes understanding in general actually very, very easy and very interesting. Because I mean, who wouldn't want to just sit on your phone and one day and just scroll through something and just see a very big headline that entices you to know about a product or know about an idea, and you're like, oh wait, it's science. I don't need it. I'm not interested. But when you see it, when you see how captivating the idea is and the topic is rather, you're like, let's just scroll and just see what this is about. But at the end of the day, you see yourself clicking links, buying, subscribing into ideas, subscribing into thoughts, into things you never even knew you could, just because it was written right from the beginning. So I feel like science copywriting does a great job, a very, very good job at enticing people to know more about science that they never thought they could, or they never actually paid attention to in the first instance. Because everybody's just like, oh yeah, I use science, oh yeah, I use technology, oh yeah, I know about this medical line, I've heard about this, but they really don't understand what it means or what it takes to be what it is, or what it can actually do for them. So everybody is just like, yeah, science exists, but we know it exists, but they are not really that much invested into it. So science copy looks at how to attract people, into an idea, into a concept, into subscribing into things that they would just not have subscribed to initially. So to me, I feel like science copywriting is just like a very, very good blend, a very good blend that most people would not have seen coming, as long as the writer does it perfectly, really. Following the IDA principle, it works wonders. I've written it over time, I have done it several times, just to practice and see things, and it's worked well. And it's really good, trust me. And if there's a field I know, if there's a field I know, I probably have a little bit I wouldn't say great per se, but like a very good substantial knowledge about, and I would like to even explore probably in the future, is science copywriting. Yeah.
Yeah, the challenge in science copywriting is to combine the principles of copywriting with the principles of like science communication. But that's the challenge that we have to have. Like in the pandemic, there was so much information and a lot of like science
Mhm.
products that needed to be marketed. And it's like if you don't have someone that can both understand the science and also use copywriting principles, then that's a huge problem. And that's why I asked you to write that blog about science copywriting, because I feel like no one in science that does science, there's a whole field of science called science communication that is involves explaining science to people in a way that they can understand it, but the marketing aspect isn't there because a lot of scientists don't really like marketing. And you're a scientist because you're like a political scientist, so technically a social scientist by training. And I don't know if for political science, like we all interact with the political system, so it's a little bit less bad. But for science itself, you're right. There's a lot of jargon and a lot of just stuff that people don't understand that they need to understand, like they in the pandemic, or in future challenges, whether it's climate issues or there's a ton of issues that I can't think of all of them right now. But it's and like you said, copywriting isn't difficult to learn if you really want to learn copywriting. Like there's a ton of resources out there. I don't even know of all of them, but you've studied a lot of them. Like there's a bunch of people on YouTube that but you and also Phil read a lot. And I follow like a couple of people in copywriting, but I still have yet to learn email direct response email copywriting. That's my new thing that I will eventually learn. But apparently that's really lucrative too, because science
Hmm.
copywriting is really lucrative. And if scientists knew that they could learn copywriting as a skill and make money, probably more money than working in a science lab, I feel like they would be more likely to
Subscribe to it.
get into science copywriting.
Yeah. I feel like the one aspect of science copywriting that I just feel like might actually be look the like might be on the pressure is with AI. I think you mentioned that earlier. Like how do I think about AI and science copywriting or copywriting in general? And I feel like there's no how. I mean, people feel really threatened by AI. Like, oh, okay. I mean, there's an engine that can write exactly what you need in just seconds. But I have compared AI pieces to pieces just a normal person writes, just trying to even test out copywriting. And there's one thing that AI doesn't do that humans do way more than AI, and that's convey feelings. I mean, AI might try to like masquerade itself as a human, but it just doesn't give you that feel of somebody actually understanding what you are actually going through, somebody seeing things in your point of view. It just doesn't convey the feeling of expression. It is more, AI is more of should I say, I wouldn't want to use the word static, but it is more like engineered. Yeah. And writing is just goes freely. And if I would actually suggest for anybody to study copywriting, you can just decide, okay, fine, you can go to Udemy. I think I bought a course on Udemy for a very, very cheap amount, and it entails a lot about copywriting I didn't even understand before that. I didn't even know. I mean, when I was reading into copywriting, I already had a view or understanding about copywriting, but I bought the course and it showed me a lot about copywriting I didn't have any idea about. So, two sources I would advise anybody to try on to write copies that are organic, that expresses your human feelings is just try Udemy and YouTube, great sources. Oh yeah, Twitter too. Twitter has a lot of posts and Twitter threads about people just like telling you this is how you can think about copywriting, this is how you can come up with ideas about copywriting, this is how you express your ideas better. I mean, Twitter is also a very, very great resource for copywriting.
There's a lot out there. Actually, I wanted to ask you because you are an African copywriter, and I just so we had a guy. His name is Ozzy Moyo. He wrote a blog for us about using science communication in indigenous African cultures, and he was writing a bit about it's not published as of recording. It's not published on the blog. I think it'll be published next week or so. Um, I'll link it in the description box whenever it's published. But he talks about using storytelling principles from, and I wanted to ask you about this because you're also an African guy. He talks about using storytelling principles from indigenous African culture in communicating science. I was just curious, have you um, use those principles in your copywriting, or do you work with African clients, or do you think that that sort of um, the African narrative has helped you with your copywriting? Because there's a copywriting is usually in the English for me, but in Africa they speak many different languages, and so Ozzy's whole thing is that there needs to be more communication in like regional languages. Like, do you do copywriting in like how does being African influence your copywriting, or does it, or what do you have to say on this subject?
That's a very great issue, which I feel like one of the fundamentals about copywriting is to interact with people in the way that they feel most relatable with. And I mean, fusing like the indigenous African knowledge or language into copywriting works. It works a lot. An example was there was a time I wrote a copy for someone that needed a Facebook ad, and I used some words that were like that people would see and they would understand. Africans would see, mostly Nigerians would see and they would understand. But outsiders may not, they see it and maybe completely confused about what is going on. Now I used the word was sapa. It is a word in it is more or less like a slang in Nigeria, meaning like being broke or not, but being like financially down. So I used that word in the opening sentence, and when the person I wrote it for read it, he said, "Wow, that he didn't even know that he could fuse words like that into copywriting. Like he just felt like you had to be organic, you had to write English and stuff." But he said if you were just passing by and you saw something like that, so that wow, somebody is talking about SAP. I mean, I'm usually broke. I would like to know about this. I think the copy was about I I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was about an app that lets you, is it save? Yeah, I think it's an app that lets you save or something. I've forgotten. It's been a very long, it's been 2 years or so. So it's I mean the opening sentence was add elements of the African of indigenous language and indigenous trends that people would relate to completely. So it's a very good idea, honestly, because once you're able to tap into the sources of your target market, if you are able to tap into their psyche, rather tap into something that they would relate to, I mean, you've hooked them. I mean, and that is what copywriting is for. It's for hooking the clients that you want and letting them do what you actually feel like would benefit them and what would also benefit you too. So to me, I feel like if you are going to include indigenous languages into copywriting, it's going to be great. Fine, it might not be used globally. Not everybody will be able to relate and understand, but it is very, very effective in talking to a targeted set of people because they will be able to relate more to it and they will be able to, get more interest in it and most likely tap what they need from it. So yeah, it's great, really. Very great.
That's great that I guess you agree with him.
I do.
I actually, I've never been to Africa. Maybe I will go at some point. I'm a tutor now, and yesterday, 2 days ago, I helped a guy from Egypt practice his English. So, um, slowly learning, meeting more Africans and learning about the region. We've actually done like a few articles about like African specific SciComm. We interviewed Marina Joubert, who's a SciComm trainer in South Africa, on the blog, on the Fancy Comma blog, and um, I forget her name. There's a girl that runs the Catalyst in Me, Adama Sako. She wrote an article about Africa and what Africa is portrayed as in the headlines in the news. And then we have your articles about copywriting, but they are not specifically about Africa.
Yeah.
But it is a one problem for I think developed nations, or the global South as people call them. Um, there's a whole article in our blog about the global South and challenges of science communication there, but it's like things like internet access, or like if there's like whatever's happening there because
Electricity
here in
too.
the US we have like really stable internet. Like I mean
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we don't have internet. Here in Oklahoma we have like tornadoes a lot and so we'll be like out of power for a while and I'll have to tell our clients, sorry, where there's like tornadoes, I can't do anything and they're just like, oh no, be safe. But there's a lot of digital infrastructure in the global south is less advanced than it is in the developed world. And I'm
Okay.
not sure if we're still using those terms, but that creates a challenge for copywriters. But I feel like I actually do know a lot of African copywriters on Twitter. I know quite a few
Yeah.
people that are, I mean, like, there's, I forget all the people, but like you and Phil, and there's like a couple others that I follow personally. And I feel like people are following me from Africa almost every day, like Africa as well as like Asia. There's a huge need for copywriting, like not just English, but like in every language that people talk in which people talk because of the huge global marketplace where we all have different needs for different products. So it's pretty cool that copywriting can sort of transcend cultures and be applicable to many different cultures, whether it's like Western culture or it's like African culture. I'm not sure what the proper dichotomy is, or even like I'm Persian, so like I would love to do some Persian copywriting. I don't speak Persian well enough to do copywriting in that language, but it would be fun. So anyway, thanks so much for your time here. If there's anything you want to like promote or shout out anyone, feel free to do so. It's been a pleasure to have you on here, and we're really grateful
Thank
for
you.
your amazing insights today. So thanks a lot for stopping by.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I mean, this is nice to, have my voice know heard by people. So it's nice. And if I would shout out to anyone, I think it would just be Philip really because Philip is actually a very great friend. And the fact that my establishment in copywriting today is, yeah, he has a very good big role to play in it. So yeah, just Philip. Yeah. So, and I would actually you said you'd like to come to Africa one day. Yeah, you can. Africa is a very great place, trust me. It is a very great place. It's culturally rich. It has like a lot of things. Fine, we have our setbacks here and there, but you know, who doesn't? So you can decide to come to Nigeria, you can go to South Africa, you can go to anywhere. Africa is a great place, really, and uh, yeah, yeah. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. We'll have to have Phil on the show on the YouTube as well because I have yet to meet him, though I've also worked with him for a couple years. So it's been great. We'll have to work together more in the future.
Oh,
Thanks
definitely.
again.
Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day.